Multiplication patterns, lesson 4. Here we are on page 99. Powers of 10 include numbers like 10, 100, and 1000 because they can be written as 10 to the first power, 10 to the second power, also known as 10 squared, and 10 to the third power, or 10 cubed. Example 1. Pet Paws is ordering more goldfish to sell at their store. Each goldfish costs $2. Use the table to determine the cost of 10, 100, and 1000 goldfish. Describe the pattern in the number of zeros when multiplying the cost $2 by powers of 10. So we have the cost of one goldfish is always $2. When we multiply by a power of 10, here we have 2 times 1, okay, is 2, and the number of zeros in the product is 0. When we multiply 2 times 10, the product or answer of that multiplication is 20, and we have 1 0 in the product or the answer to the multiplication. 2 times 100, right? There's a shortcut as these numbers get bigger. Really, you're doing 2 times 1 and adding the zeros in. You keep those zeros, move them over. Although you should already know that 2 times 100 is 200. So we count up how many zeros are in this product, and there are 2 zeros. $2 times 1,000 goldfish, 2 times 1 is 2. Keep my zeros. 1, 2, 3. Count my zeros. There are 3 in the product. The number of zeros in the product increases when the power of 10 increases. Each successive power of 10 adds 1 0 to the product. So every time we increase by a power of 10, we're adding 1 more 0, right? 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So each time we're adding 1 more 0 to get the number of zeros in the next power of 10. How many zeros are there in the product of 7 and 100? So 7 and 100 is really saying 7 times 100. We want the product, the answer to this multiplication. The answer is 700, but that's not what they asked. They said how many zeros are in the answer. So 700 has 2 zeros. We can also identify it here. How many zeros are in the product of 21 and 10? It's going to be 1 because there's only 1 0 here. Even though I haven't even calculated the answer yet, I know that between the two numbers there's only 1 0, therefore there's only 1 0 in the answer. How many zeros are in the product of 12 and 1000? 3 zeros, right? There's no other zeros, just those 3. Moving on to page 100. Example 2. We are going to use the lesson 3, powers and exponents. If you missed that lesson, this is not going to make as much sense to you. You need to do lesson 2 before you do this lesson. That's why we have to go in order in math. That's why it's important to do all of the lessons and make them up. Find 13 times 2 squared mentally. That means no calculator. Might look hard, but we know that 10 squared, or 10 to the second power, really means 10 times 10, which really is 100, right? So we're writing it without exponents. That was this piece, 10 times 10. Then we count the number of zeros in the power of 10. So that answer was 100, or even if you looked at it as 10 times 10, there are 2 zeros. Compare the number of zeros to the exponent 10 squared. Okay, so we have 2 zeros here and 10 squared equals 100, which has 2 zeros, so they are the same. Write the zeros to the right of the 13. So we were multiplying by 13, 13 times 100. I'm going to take those 2 zeros that I had and put them into the right of that digit, that number, not digit, the digit 3, but the number 13. So the product, the actual answer is 1,300. We didn't need a calculator. We can figure it out. Example 3. Find 40 times 7,000 mentally. Get that sledgehammer out and break that wall down. I know some of you are panicking that that's too hard. There's kind of a shortcut. You can look at the digits here. 4 times 7. If you know 4 times 7 is 28, now all we have to do is count the zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I write my 28 down. There are 4 zeros. Oh, sorry. 1 zero here, 3 zeros there. Or 4 total. 1 zero in 40 and 3 zeros in 7,000 for a total of 4 zeros. So step 3 is to write the zeros to the right of the product from step 1. 28 plus my 4 zeros. Separate the ones period from the thousands period with my comma. So the answer to this very big math problem that looks really hard is 280,000, which you can do without a calculator. Guided practice. Find each product mentally. 8 times 10 squared. Remember that we just talked about 10 squared. 10 squared is 100. The total number of zeros is 2. 8 times 10 squared is 800, because I'm going to keep that 8. And then I'm going to add my 2 zeros. Question number 2. 14 times 2,000. I'm looking at 14 times 2. That's my basic multiplication facts. And we know that that answer is 28. I have no zeros in the first portion, but I have 3 zeros in the second. So I will write my 28 down, followed by my 3 zeros. 28